just like Popeye. Money changing colors like tie-dye. I'm just trying to get it, I ain't trying to die. She got a big on your booty, make the world cry. In the kitchen, wrist kissed it like it's stir fry. Hold them bands down, hold your mans down. Who told you come around? Who hit that trap sound?
Hello, everybody. Thank you so much for being here this Saturday morning. We have quite a show for you guys today. A lot happened over the past week. Lots of stuff. And so we're going to break it down for you. It is a good time to talk about Iran. We have a ceasefire in place, and as long as everything that's going on in Lebanon doesn't break that, we might be in for some peace. But that being said, we have the ceasefire. And the Democrats, they're going crazy over it. But, I mean, it's just insane. So this right here is, let me pull this up here. So this one here is J.D. Vance talking about the ceasefire, because he's going to be the one who is going to be leading the talks. And we'll talk about that, why that is in a moment. But the biggest thing is that he went over there this morning to go handle some of this stuff. Man, this thing's loading. Gotta love it. So here we are.
News or pictures that are just coming into us out of Islamabad, where U.S. Vice President J.D. Vance has met Pakistan's Prime Minister Mohammad Shehbaz Sharif. It's ahead of possible peace talks with a delegation from Iran, including the country's speaker and foreign minister. All of this, of course, as the White House denies reports the U.S. has agreed to unfreeze Iranian assets, a key demand from Tehran as part of these negotiations. We'd heard, I think, in the past hour that they had agreed to freeze them, and now the White House itself denying that. So
the White House denied that. I was going to say that. So, yeah, that's one of those like foreign BBC, I think it was. No, actually, it was Sky News. It's an Australian broadcast, but they said that Donald Trump had said that he was going to release the Iranian assets. And very quickly after that, they came back in the White House and said, no, that's stupid. We would never do that. But I digress. That doesn't stop these people from doing what they're going to do. If Iran is smart, which we know they're not, when you go to a peace talk with the United States of America, and you tell Witkoff that you have enough enriched uranium for 11 nuclear warheads, you're not smart. You are not smart. But if Iran is smart, and the new people who they're talking to, they will make a deal. They will have to make a deal at some point. So, with this, here we go. And they are going to have to make a deal at some point here. We can get this video to go here. All right.
Guys, they will cut a deal. President Trump doesn't bluff and he does not back down. You can ask Khomeini about that. President Trump will make a deal. He is willing. And the terms of the deal are known to them. If Iran is not willing, then the United States War Department will continue with even more intensity.
That was from the War Department. And the War Department said it. They have to make a deal. They have to. But I was reading earlier today that one of the obstacles in the way of opening the Strait of Hormuz is that Iran dropped all these mines, and now they don't know where the fuck they are. They could be anywhere. So, like, the United States is talking about going out there and swimming around and doing that. And picking those motherfuckers up. Like, that's a smart idea. Terrible idea. I think we just need to figure out a way to just get the oil from the United States. Because that way, we're booming. They don't have to get their oil through the Strait of Hormuz. It is the Europeans right now that are paying the ultimate price for their stupidity of not getting involved. Because right now, they are the ones, our NATO allies, not us. We are energy dominant. We produce our own energy. That's why we've had very as much as it does hurt with gas prices, they haven't been as much as what the Europeans have seen. And we'll get to the Keir Starmer jackass in a minute. But I wanted to play this video here for you because Victor Davis Hanson always has a phenomenal take on and perspective on what's going on in today's society. And I think this video really shows that. So let me get this one here for you. Victor Davis Hanson of the Daily Signal.
When you look at those posters, I don't want to laugh. It's serious stuff. Of all the theocrats and the revolutionary,
the heads of the that
guard,
have been
the
hit
Islamic
and
guard.
taken out.
When you look at those, and you look at those people, there's none left. They've wiped them all out. So that's going to take them years to reconstruct, and that's going to be that knowledge will, if they can stop this and get the strait open by hook or crook by June or July, the price of gas is going to be cheap for the summer driving, and the foreign investment, the Gulf, he's going to go over to the Gulf people and he's going to say to them, he is, okay, I neutered Iran for you, and you have 600 fighters, you 6 nations, and you didn't send one, not one. The Israelis did with half your jets. So you promised $5 or $6 trillion. I want to see it now. And if you don't, you can deal with the wounded bear yourself someday. And that's going to be a powerful incentive for them to invest in the United States. And then he's going to be in a very popular position vis-a-vis the Europeans. They're going to look stupid because the price of the strait will be open, and suddenly for the first time in years, there's no threat of a nuclear Iranian tipped ballistic missile hitting their cities, and that threat is gone for, I don't know, 5 or 6, 7, 8 years. If you have a good president that follows them, it can be gone forever. But they're going to look stupid, and he's going to be in a good position to have a fighting chance of keeping the House. I really believe that.
That was it. And I love that because he just mapped the way out on how we are going to hold the House. So that, because we have to hold one of them. We're going to lose one of the House or the Senate, but we need to hold the House. And he just said it. That's kind of how it looks. Though I would love to just sweep the midterms because the Democrats look so fucking stupid. But I digress. Right after the ceasefire was announced, of course, just like the first one that was brokered a while back between Palestine and Gaza, or between Palestine and Israel, it was broke pretty quick. But there's always some missiles.
Are the missiles, and it looks like you can see an interceptor that is in hot pursuit of the missiles. And it's always quite dramatic when you see those interceptors going after it. And these ones might disappear behind our building here, and we're going to lose sight of them. But they're still quite lethal and coming in.
So this is still going on.
And I didn't see an interception in this case. Should be able to hear it in a second or so. And it's still quite lethal when there's an interception. Most of what we see out here are those cluster bombs in recent days. But when you get a conventional...
First of all, how nonchalant was he? Just like, yeah, it just went over. Looks like it missed the interceptor, missed it. We should hear the explosion in just a moment. So matter of fact. Granted, the people of Israel are probably like, fuck. But a safer world is ahead, and I truly, truly, truly believe that there is going to be a much, much, much safer world ahead on what is going to happen in the future. Like Victor Davis Hanson said, a world without a nuclear Iran is a much safer world. I heard a liberal say it the other day, talking about how that it's not the person, or it's not the nuclear weapon, it's the person. So why would you care if Iran had nuclear weapons? Trying to make the argument about our gun argument, that you don't blame somebody for failing a math test. You don't blame the pencil. The same way you don't blame somebody, the gun that somebody shot and killed somebody with. It wasn't the gun, it was the person. And they tried to make that argument on that, and it was a complete failure. But that's the type of weird connections that these people try to make, and probably why they're so unhappy. There's a lot of people out there that just hate normalcy. They hate good people for being Christian. And the Christian values are what changed the world, okay? The Christian values made the world what it is today. The United States was formed on Christian values, and pretty much a lot of countries out there since have made their country based on Christian values too. Thou shalt not kill, thou shalt not steal, the 10 Commandments. So what I'm saying is that you have these people out there that just hate that. They hate Christians. They hate everything that's on that side. So when you have somebody like Donald Trump who's willing to put up a vendetta against the Islamic world, the terrorists, then they just go fucking crazy. Now, Ro Khanna is a Democrat, and he's been pretty vocal. He's been pretty vocal against this whole Iranian conflict. And he's also been very vocal about the Epstein files. Now, Ro Khanna is a fraud. He is. He's a fraud. He's a Democrat fraud, just like the rest of them. He was chanting to have the Epstein files released only because he thought that they would hurt Donald Trump. He didn't give a shit about the Epstein files during the Biden administration. He didn't care about them until he thought that it was politically advantageous for him to try to pin it on Donald Trump. So, this guy is the bad idea of bad ideas. Just like the Democrat Party. All their ideas are bad. Policies are bad. Their ideas are bad and dangerous. And they'd say, and then they just look at you, you're a fascist. You're a fascist. Well, color me whatever you want. But I'm a capitalist. I'm a Christian capitalist. USA patriot. And I'll tell you this. The last thing that we need China and Russia involved in this whole fucking thing. But Ro Khanna says he's got a plan. And this is one of the dumbest fucking things I've ever heard. It is the dumbest thing I have ever heard come out of somebody's mouth. But it's on CNN. So they let him get away with it.
We need an immediate ceasefire, stop the bombing. We need to make sure that we give Iran an ironclad guarantee that Israel or we will not attack again and involve China and Russia in that. And then we need to look at some of the sanctions and have a diplomatic solution.
Where does the Strait of Hormuz fall into that, on that item list?
Well, that's the only way, in my view, that we get the Strait of Hormuz open. If we don't give Iran a guarantee that they're going to be safe, they're going to think, well, Israel's saying they want to mow the lawn.
Is it acceptable to you if Iran remains in control of the Strait of Hormuz?
No. But right now, look, gas was $2.30 before the war. Gas has gone up to $4. So it's obviously not working, the war. The only way we're going to get out of this is to have some kind of diplomatic solution. And that would require us to stop the bombing and to figure out how we convince Iran that we're not going to continue to bomb them. We need to end the war, and we can.
So he brings up having China and them step in and play a part in this too. Why? Just to give them geopolitical kudos? To bolster their stance? No, we don't want to do that. It's the dumbest thing I've ever heard. But Democrats cannot say that the president did a good job no matter what. They can't. We've joked about it since 2016 that if Donald Trump said, I cured cancer, then the Democrats or Politico would probably have an article out there that said, Trump cures cancer, here's why that's a bad thing. I mean, these people are so morally bankrupt and they are so biased. It's not even funny anymore. But Democrats, like I said, they don't have a plan. Like, what is their plan? What is their policies? Check this out. This is another deranged one here. Absolutely deranged. If we can get this here. So,
starting with Donald Trump, I want to really emphasize the fact that I think the messaging and his rhetoric over the last couple of days, and specifically on the morning of April 7th, when he took to Truth Social and essentially threatened a genocide against 90 million Iranians by saying, quote, a whole civilization will die, following days where he said he will blow Iran up back to the Stone Ages. That demonstrates that he is mentally unstable and unfit for office. The fact that there is this now fragile ceasefire doesn't change the fact that he said those things, and the fact that he put the entirety of the world at risk with this war. We've seen that this is not a partisan issue anymore. There are many Republicans who were once avid supporters of President Trump, from Tucker Carlson to Marjorie Taylor Greene to Candace Owens, Nick Fuentes, and many on the far right, in addition to Democrats who have called for the invocation of the 25th Amendment, who have called for his impeachment. And look at where we are now after 40-some days of this illegal war. America is not safer. American service members have died. Thousands of innocent civilians have died. There is over 1 million people displaced in Lebanon, and we just saw the deadliest day of the war in Lebanon, with 200 civilians killed and more than 1,000 wounded. This is a man who is a clear and present danger to this country, and I think needs to be impeached or removed from office. And I'm very glad that so many of my colleagues have supported that assessment as well.
There's no indication, at least at this point, that any Republicans in Congress, and they control the House and the Senate, as you well know, or President Trump's cabinet share your view. So how is pursuing impeachment or the 25th Amendment to the U.S. Constitution productive and feasible at this point?
I think it's a matter of talking about it and making sure the American public knows what is going on here. The majority of the American public in recent data also supports impeachment of Donald Trump. I'm sure you saw the New York Times 3.0 that elaborates upon how this war began and the conversations in the Situation Room with Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu that led to Trump starting this war. I thought it was very interesting that J.D. Vance, in particular, was clearly opposed to the war, and I think that he has a very serious responsibility here. I think he should have done more to stop President Trump from embarking upon this. If he felt so strongly, he clearly indicated that he was opposed and did not think that this would make America safer before the war began. But that is what the 25th Amendment is there for. It exists so that members of the cabinet, including the vice president, can make use of this measure when there is clearly a president who is unfit for office. I cannot tell you how many constituents I have heard from who have been terrified about their sons and daughters going to war. Iranians, 90 million people who thought maybe a nuclear bomb was going to drop on them on Tuesday night. I mean, this is the actions of an absolute madman, and we are only in month 16 of this presidency.
I was joking. We were not hoping, but I'm just kidding there. But my point is that these people are fucking nuts. They don't care about the 40,000 Iranian people that were murdered by their own regime. They don't care about that. They call it an illegal war. They're sticking up for the Ayatollah. These people are retarded. They don't deserve your vote. And if you don't hold the House, these people are going to do exactly what she just said. They're going to impeach him again. They say it out loud because that's what their fucking weird purple-haired base wants to hear. Now, going into the miscellaneous section here, well, we'll go to the down pilot. We had the down pilot, right? That we found the first pilot, the second pilot was then missing. We were looking for it wasn't the pilot, he was the armor, the weaponry guy in the thing. It was a two-seater. But we found out, right, that, and many people will probably remember this because there was some outrage on it. But at first, Iran said that they shot down an F-35. Now, anybody that knows planes knows that an F-35 is a one-seater. There's one pilot in that plane. And the United States CENTCOM came out and they said, no, well, we have all of our F-35s. Sorry, bud. And then they came out the next day and they're like, well, did they lie to us? No, they didn't lie to us. It was all a strategic plan. They never corrected the Iranian government about the plane that they shot down because they did not want them searching for the second weaponry guy that was still unaccounted for. So they, say all this shit, but you have liberals out there now that, and this woman that I'm about to show you, this is what liberals say online. This is the type of person who calls you a fascist. This is insane. You got to hear what this chick says. But this is a professional woman, and
at war with somebody, guess what that other country does? Exactly what they've been doing through history all this time, right? You take them hostage and you use them for leverage. So guess what Iran did? They put a bounty out on his head, and whoever finds him gets a great award. I can't wait. Hopefully it's like money or jewels. I hope the person who finds him is very poor and ends up being very wealthy, and I hope Iran holds their promise. When you're at war with somebody...
This is what people are saying. This is what the liberals are saying. And you can always tell in their eyes that they're unhappy women who don't have kids and hate their lives. But I digress. Now to the fun part, my miscellaneous section of my list. This is why people should stop going to fucking college, okay? I believe that this is a Canadian. This is from Canada. And this is so fucking crazy, okay? But they, they're all about the LBGT. Oh, okay, this is in a college, but this is why you shouldn't go to college. Listen to this.
But there are differences between men
Canada.
and women. This is a strange position to be in, to be arguing for something that is so universally and widely accepted within biology. What is not as widely accepted is that culture is also evolutionary, but I'm going to argue that biology and culture are both evolutionary. Let's look at differences between men and women that are explicitly anatomical and physiological. Are men taller than women on average? Does anyone take offense at that fact? Are you irritated?
There's always a standout.
So I would say you could be irritated by it. You could be irritated by the fact that women have to be the ones to gestate and lactate. You could be irritated by a lot of truths. But taking offense
there they go.
is a response that is rejection of reality.
Watch these freaks leave
So,
and then turn off
men
the
and
mic.
women are different on height. They're different on muscle mass. They're different on where fat is deposited on our bodies, right? Our brains are also different. So
Security! This is what happens. Oh, did they shut off the volume? Can you hear? Can everybody hear?
Really? He's a piece of shit. That's not okay. Even the women in there have been brainwashed.
Should not listen to fascism.
Oh yeah, they were
should not
brainwashed.
be tolerated in civil society.
hair.
Nazis are not welcome in civil society.
This is Portland State.
Cover the people! Thank you.
All right, well, we're going to raise our voices.
So I don't know what the fuck they got in the water in Portland, but what the hell? I mean, seriously, that's like people walking out on talking about the biological differences between male and female. That's like walking out on an argument because the sky's blue. It doesn't make sense. And these people will do anything that they can to stay within their bubble so that you don't burst it, so that it doesn't explode and implode on itself. Because at any given time, one of these people could be confronted by a realist, by somebody who's based in reality, and that could trigger them into doing something violent and all that stuff. And we talked about that, but this one is my new favorite thing. This is so fucking funny. Pete Buttigieg, Mayor Pete, the worst transportation secretary in the history of the United States. Pete goes on CNBC and starts talking about how bad the economy is because of Donald Trump. CNBC is a money channel. All they talk about is money and numbers. Numbers don't lie. And I have never seen a Democrat taken apart like this on live TV like they did Pete Buttigieg. Check this one out. Pete Buttigieg.
I understand that.
And look, I'm saying this as somebody who knows what it's like to be sent to war by a U.S. president. And when a president sends you to war, when you and your buddies are on that gray tail plane going into a war zone, you do it with some level of confidence, some level of assurance that your chain of command, all the way up to the President of the United States, would not do this if they didn't have a choice.
Now that we're there, do you hope this has a successful outcome? There were 40,000 Iranians that were slaughtered by the same regime. 47 years of killing Americans, stirring trouble all around the world.
And how do you feel about that regime being left intact by this president?
I don't know if that's going to be the case, and I don't know what might happen.
Is that an argument?
So you don't want this to work, and it was just a bad move. You want us to pull out now?
Well, look, there's no obvious way out now, but I want to make sure that this ends in a way that, first of all, our economy can recover, that we're not paying so much for gas. I mean, right now, oil's $100, jet fuel's $200, gas is over $4, diesel's like $5.50.
You averaged $3.80 under Biden for 4 years.
Yeah, and when we left, inflation was lower.
I don't think this guy understands how inflation works. He's playing for a stupider crowd.
This president took the inflation rate up. This president took the inflation rate up. It's more than 3% year on year. You saw the numbers just come out. It's more than 3% year on year.
Okay.
Isn't it? Am I mistaken?
It is.
Sorry?
The math is direct.
Yeah.
The math is the math.
Look, it couldn't be simpler. Months from 2.7 to 3%.
It's higher than when he got here,
it's
Joe.
It's not 9%.
His central campaign promise was he was going to take inflation and drive it down, and instead he took inflation and it's up.
I thought the Fed...
It was 3 when he got here, and now it's more. It could not be simpler than that.
It's around 3, and we're involved in a war.
He said on day one it would go down. He came in on day one, and now it's up.
It's up to 3%. It was 21.5% price
he promised
increases
it would go
over
down
4 years. Over 4 years, it was 21.5%.
He promised it would go down.
Democrats own the affordability crisis.
They do. 100%. 100%.
Why did the president fail to keep his promise?
You don't think Democrats own the affordability crisis?
Why did the president fail to keep his promise to lower prices, in your opinion?
I'm laughing because this piece of it is basic. The president did say that he wanted to be in office to bring inflation down, and he has not brought inflation down. That's all.
He drove it up. He not only failed, he drove it up.
Mr. Secretary, let's talk a little
bit. Have had a minimal effect.
You tell a family where I live that $1,000 per household is minimal.
From the 21.5% increase that the Democrats.
No, we can argue all day about just how bad COVID was and how bad it got and what it.
Oh, that's their argument now. Oh,
where I live, $1,000 per household isn't minimal.
Now Democrats found religion on inflation after presiding over the worst inflation in 40 years. Now you found religion.
It's 2026. They're in charge. You guys are in charge.
I'm aware of that.
What are you going to do differently?
Look,
what are you going to do differently to make the prices actually go down like you promised a year ago?
Number one, we got to get through this war, and you've heard people...
We got to get through this war. We didn't have to be fighting this war. What are we doing?
That's a matter of opinion. You can't say that.
It's a matter of opinion that I share with most Americans and a large
number he wanted the Ayatollah Muslim crazy people that have nukes. Smart. What a dumbass. These people aren't serious.
You don't start with the approval you have within your own party, but the point is the MAGA coalition...
Democrats aren't going to approve of anything.
I'm talking about Americans. Americans disapprove of the president and their right to do so.
He's got the same approval rating other presidents have had at this point in the term, a little bit above, 42%.
President right now is unpopular for very good reasons, one of which is
no more unpopular than Obama was or Biden was at the same term at the same point of his presidency.
That depends on which polls you're looking at, but...
that depends on what polls.
I'm sorry, but
he's such a
I've
joke.
been on the trail. I was in Marjorie Taylor Greene's district. Marjorie Taylor Greene. This is a Trump plus 38 district, or it was.
I know the numbers.
We had 500 people.
You'll get a chance to prove that in November this year.
Okay. We had a chance to prove it last week.
The Senate might go. I understand.
Yeah, because people are...
Presidents make difficult decisions, obviously.
Yeah, but usually they make difficult decisions to try to make other people better off. This president's made decisions to make himself better off. That's definitely happened.
Oh, my God. What a dumbass.
Pay $1 million for the entry fee to Mar-a-Lago, then you're doing great. But everybody else is hurting right now.
Mr. Secretary,
I mean, what a joke of a human being. And they want to be taken serious. And that's what's so crazy about it. They want to be taken serious. Joe Biden raised prices on everything 21% by spending stupid amounts of money that didn't need to be spent. We were sending money to countries that fucking hated our guts for transgender programs that they didn't want. But Pete is always been a loser. He's always been a freak. This one here is of Pete Buttigieg saying that he doesn't want the United States to be like the Death Star. But the Death Star was a deterrent, was it not? That's all I'm saying.
F. Scott Fitzgerald said that going bankrupt is something that happens gradually, then suddenly. Maybe it's Hemingway, I don't know. But it feels like one of those moments where this has been happening gradually, really since the day he came down that escalator a decade ago. And then certain things are happening suddenly. For the leader of the free world, the leader of this country, to just make a nakedly genocidal threat against another civilization, as if the United States of America was a Death Star that was going around blowing up civilizations. Of course that crosses a new line, and of course that's a new low. I think the really important thing to remember is that the effects of that kind of thing will outlive Donald Trump. Long after he has departed the scene, the collapse in trust, not just affection for the United States, but trust in the United States.
There's more respect right now for the United States than there was any time under Biden.
We're negotiating with when we're making a peace deal or some other kind of deal, that they have a level of trust that there is stability in the United States. And while maybe a lot of people wrote it off, the Truth Social post, any of the other stuff he said, it's just bluster, it's just Trump being Trump, the reality is that the whole country is being judged, even though most Americans don't support him anyway. The whole country is being judged just for tolerating that kind of thing at the White House.
I think it was Hemingway.
What a joke.
Secretary,
That's their narrative? Really? Is that the United States doesn't have the respect of other people? We lost respect with the way Joe Biden pulled us out of Afghanistan. That's how we lost respect. Democrats are the reason that other countries don't respect us, because they're always the ones that make the stupid fucking mistakes in the eyes of social justice. They always do the stupid shit. Oh, let's send stupid amounts of money to other countries that hate our fucking guts. That's what these people want to do. That's what Pete Buttigieg wants to keep doing. And what it started doing, what we found out, is that all of a sudden, all this money kept funding all these little programs. Well, it was just getting funneled right back into the Democrat Party. And that's what they were doing. And it's sad. It's fucked up and it's sad. But I digress. So, so this one here is one of the most bizarre things I've seen in a while. Oh God.
Day 75 of being a girl, and I've been carrying around tampons and pads for the past 2 months, but I've actually never opened one up, so let's do it! Woohoo! I thought the letters stood for small, medium, and large, based on the size of your Barbie pouch, but after a Google, I found out it's actually the level of your flow, so they're super, regular, and light. I guess my question is, which one do I carry around, the super? Because maybe if you have a light flow, you can still use a super? I don't know. Here goes nothing. It's pink, it's kind of adorable, and it kind of looks like a butter churn. So you just go like that? Ow. Where does the string go? You are getting sleepy.
Oh my
now
God.
For the real magic, I've got a glass of water in the tampon. I almost put red food coloring in there, but I thought that might be too much. And we're gonna see how this works. Oh, it kind of looks like a butterfly. How long does it take to get to this? This one looks like it would do the job. I feel like I'm in science class. Oh no. Okay, the pad didn't expand, so maybe this is for a light flow?
Yeah, apparently it is science class.
I just don't know. Now that I think about it, I probably should have had a woman come teach me about these things. I was on the boys' side of sex ed, and now I would like to take the girls' class. But if you're on your period right now, I'm sending you love.
I hate to say this, but whoever taught that fucker sex ed class needs to go back and relearn whatever it is he taught. I mean, what the fuck? Okay. Where do you even begin? Okay, like, what? Why? I don't understand it, and I apologize that I made you watch that. But what the fuck? I mean, that's Dylan Mulvaney. That's the guy's name. And he was the Bud Light guy that caused all the Bud Light stir because Bud Light sent him some stuff and everybody wouldn't buy Bud Light anymore. But it's like I said, it's a mental illness, right? And they're in this bubble, and so they say, well, like they wanted to make people, misgendering somebody like a crime, like a $200,000 offense, like so you're going to fine me for not playing into that person's delusional bubble. Like if I don't play along, you're going to fine me. And that's what the Democrats have coming when they take power again. And they will eventually. I hope it's not in 2028, but that's what you will see more of. What we saw from the Biden administration, we will see that times 10. They will go after everybody in the Biden or in the Trump administration. They will go after Border Patrol. They will go after law enforcement. They've said it. But that's what you're dealing with, is that before in politics, you used to have at least a center, but now it's like conservatives are a very wide portion of normies, and then you have this like small sect of Democrats. And I think that middle sect will go one way or the other based on how they feel about somebody, right? And that feelings can change about people over time, but I digress. This right here, this is my note on this one, these are the people that are calling you a fascist, okay? Now, this one here, this is a Canadian school. Or not a school. Hang on, which video is this? Yeah, this is a Canadian. Check this out, dude. This is wild.
$0 to deal with the ongoing genocide of MMIW G2S LGBTQIA+.
And for those of you fascists who don't know what that means, it's obviously missing and murdered Indigenous women, girls, and two-spirit, lesbian, gay, bisexual, transgender, queer, and questioning, intersex, and asexual. And we decided that the best way to honor these murdered and missing women was to lump them into the ever-growing category of gender identities and sexualities. We're also expanding that list to include the PWPPOTPs, or people who prefer pineapple on their pizza, as well as the WENTCWTPLs, or white empty nesters that clap in the plain lands. We will also be expanding out to the LXBMTATTMT3SABR31FATWOWOABAIC, which of course refers to the Latinx busty MILFs that ask to try more than 3 samples at Baskin-Robbins 31 flavors and then walk out without actually buying any ice cream. So we're going to have the full alphabet soon. So yeah, super sad about the murdered women, though, the Indigenous ones.
What the fuck? These people are nuts, man. I'm not even sure what the hell that just was. But they added more. They add more fucking letters to that thing than I know what to do with. I don't even know what some of them mean anymore. I think you just said them, and they still didn't make sense to me. But this one here, this is a Canadian teacher, and honestly, she should be nowhere near kids. But this is what you see in like a lot of the European-loving countries.
I have worked with 4- and 5-year-olds in schools who have genders that their parents don't want them to have. Parents' rights have suddenly been weaponized against trans and non-binary and two-spirit youth. Because I hear from teachers who are really worried about parents who might have complaints. And I think there's a perception that parents are heterosexual, that they're white, that they have a particular set of Christian values. I think a lot of educators feel really limited in what they can do because they're worried about the imagined parent community. And often that's the community because those parents are the loud voices in a school community. I want us to get really comfortable with challenging right-wing Christian patriarchy. I want to say things like, you can do work around sexual orientation and gender diversity with children of all ages. So I want us to think about these conversations in kindergarten. We're saying there's many ways to be a girl, there's many ways to be a boy, there's many ways to be both, there's many ways to be neither. You're going to figure out what's right for you, and we're going to follow your lead. I have worked with 4- and 5-year-olds in schools who have gender.
That is wild. I'm like, what the fuck? Because it's just so crazy. Like, that's a teacher? What? So, Keir Starmer put out a video to try to look super tough. You know how we wouldn't let the United States use any of the bases, you know. So to help us with the Iran war, he wanted to stay out of it until he didn't want to. Now he's trying to take a little bit of credit, trying to sound tough.
I had a discussion with President Trump last night and set out to him the views of the region here. These Gulf states are the neighbours of Iran, and therefore, if the ceasefire is to hold, and we hope it will, it has to involve them. They have very strong views on the Strait of Hormuz. And we spent most of the time on the call talking about the practical plan that's going to be needed to get navigation through the Strait, and the role that the UK is playing. For a couple of weeks now, we've been pulling together a coalition of countries, now over 30 countries, working on a political and diplomatic plan, but also looking at military capabilities and actually the logistics of actually moving vessels through the Strait. So that was the focus of the discussion last night, reflection on what I've been discussing here, but also that focus on a practical plan in relation to navigation through the Strait.
This guy's worthless. Absolutely a worthless ally. I mean, think about that. What we do for these other fucking countries, and they don't do anything for us when we really need them. It really was a test to see if they would be there when we needed them. And they weren't. They weren't there. They weren't there. So why the fuck do we need NATO? We're the one footing the bill to protect these assholes, and then they don't help us when we want it. They should be fucking doing what we ask them to do. And Keir Starmer should realize that people like him are better seen and not heard. Make a presence and shut the fuck up. Because they're just disgusting. I mean, what a joke. But I wanted to get to this. We have a joke on the Supreme Court. And right now, we have, I wanted to do this last week, but ran out of time. But there was some conversation, there was some debate, some oral arguments in front of the Supreme Court on birthright citizenship and anchor babies. Now, when they put the birthright citizenship into the Constitution, it was about slaves and the freeing of the slaves and allowing their kids to be U.S. citizens. It was very argued back then that it was not somebody who just dropped in, sojourning is the legal term, as they use in the Bible as well. Somebody who's sojourning in the land, who doesn't say that they're a U.S. citizen. If their kid is born, they will not have the U.S. citizenship. So, brings me to this. People in China have set up this wonderful operation so that they can pay this spa in one of like the Virgin Islands, somewhere in the United States, California, where they go and they visit while they're pregnant. And I just happened to have my kid while I was on vacation to the United States. My kid also has U.S. citizenship now. And my son's also a Chinese citizen who's living in China, but also has a U.S. citizen. And then they talk about how they train these people so that they sound American and everything. They know all the context. And then they send them to the United States in college. And they're military assets. They're out there to find our secrets. And they've stolen our secrets, including our F-22 Raptor. They stole the designs from the F-22 Raptor. And then when they tried to fly their version into U.S. airspace, it lit up like a Christmas tree, or like a Christmas tree, because they couldn't quite get the chemicals right that we use on the plane so that it flies virtually undetected. Not virtually, it is undetected in enemy airspace. And that's what's so beautiful about it. They couldn't fucking figure it out because, want to know why? I'll tell you why. Because China is a bunch of fucking thieves who have just bully each other, bully their citizens, but they haven't really ever been at war. The United States, on the other hand, we've had a little bit more time to perfect our military techniques because we've been at war for, 40 years on just about any continent and any place, doing different things and different missions and different operations. So I digress. We have this birthright citizenship issue where you got people that are just trying to come here to get citizenship. They call them anchor babies. Well, here are some of the oral arguments. And like I said, they're very interestingly argued, but like you could hear like what these people, and this is Trump's attorney here. This is the U.S. attorney, John Sauer, the U.S. Solicitor General.
That they had in mind when they adopted the general rule, or do we say they adopted a general rule, they meant for that to apply to later applications that might come up? Justice Scalia had an example that dealt with this situation. He imagined an old theft statute that was enacted well before anybody conceived of a microwave oven, and then afterwards someone is charged with the crime of stealing a microwave oven, and this fellow says, well, I can't be convicted under this because the microwave oven didn't exist at that time. And he dismissed that. There's a general rule there, and you apply it to future applications. And what we're dealing with here is something that was basically unknown at the time when the 14th Amendment was adopted, which is illegal immigration. So how do we deal with that situation when we have a general rule?
Yeah, I strongly agree with the way that you framed it, that there is a general principle, that's a broad principle that's adopted in the phrase subject to the jurisdiction thereof. And we submit that our theory of allegiance and domicile-based allegiance is what explains those specific exceptions that everybody was aware of, but it is broad enough to sweep in future situations. And as you pointed out, illegal immigration did not exist then. Now, the problem of temporary visitors did exist. And it's very interesting that as you look at pages 26 and 28 of our brief, commentators going from 1881 until 1922 are uniformly saying the children of temporary visitors are not included. Now that logic, we say, it naturally extends. It's really an a fortiori case. If you have someone who enters illegally by the 1880s, there are restrictions on immigration. If you've entered illegally, it's kind of a well-established principle of law going back to the Code of Justinian that says you're not allowed to be there. You don't have the legal capacity to create domicile there.
But I think, General Sauer, that what you just said suggests that you can't be arguing in the way Justice Alito suggests, because most of your brief is not about illegal aliens. Most of your brief is about people who are just temporarily in the country, where there was quite clearly an experience of, an understanding of, that there were going to be temporary inhabitants.
So you can see where the arguments are going, right? That they weren't meant to be that way, right? It wasn't exactly meant to be that way, but just listen to this one. So that was Justice Alito. This one is...
Thank you. Justice Thomas, anything further?
This is
General, you're getting a lot of questions about immigration, and they harken back, of course, to citizenship, which is defined in or set out in the 14th Amendment. How much of the debates around the 14th Amendment had anything to do with immigration?
I think that the principal focus of those debates has to do really not with immigrants, but with the Indian tribes. I mean, obviously the main goal, the one pervading purpose, as this court said in the slaughterhouse cases, was to establish the citizenship of the freed slaves and their children. But they were very concerned about the problem of something that they all accepted as a given, which is that the children of tribal Indians are not within the rule of birthright citizenship. So I think that's what they focus on. We draw an analogy to that, to the issue of temporary sojourners. But there are mentions of temporary sojourning multiple places in the congressional debates, and all of those quotes go in our direction.
And there was, Justice Sotomayor brought up Wong King Ark. There was no question in that case that about domicile, was there?
I disagree. The court says at the very beginning of its opinion, here are the accepted facts. These are lawfully domiciled here. When it states the question presented, it talks about domicile. When it recites the legal principle at page 693, it says domicile 3 times. And at page 705, at the end of the opinion, it says, here's the single question we've decided. We've decided that Chinese immigrants with a permanent domicile and residence here fall within the rule of birthright citizenship.
Okay. So you can see, this guy really makes sense. His argument really, really makes sense. You have Alito, you have Thomas, Questions were pointed, very good questions. And John Sauer, Solicitor General, answered them very well. Here is Joe Biden's hire for Supreme Court, Ketanji Brown Jackson. Here's her questioning and the responses that follow. Absolutely crazy that this woman's on the Supreme Court.
A system where, for example, social security numbers are generated based on the birth certificate. They say this can still be, for the vast majority of instances, completely transparent. You will still get a...
Not transparent. I'm just talking about the particulars, because now you say your rule turns on whether the person intended to stay in the United States. And I think Justice Barrett brought this up. So are we bringing pregnant women in for depositions? What are we doing to figure this out?
No, as I pointed out earlier, the executive order turns on lawfulness of status. So if you give birth to a baby in the hospital right now, it gets the birth certificate in the system. There's a computer system.
So there's no opportunity. There's apparently no opportunity then for the person to prove or to say that they actually intended to stay in the United States.
Absolutely not. The opposite is true. Their opportunity to dispute if they think they were wrongly denied, which would only happen in a tiny minority of cases, is directly addressing that guidance.
After the fact. Yes. After their baby has been denied citizenship, then we can go through the process.
Yes. And the way that, I'm summarizing because I'm not an expert in computers, but there's a computer program that currently automatically generates a social security number. SSA says, look, a social security number, non-citizens can have them if they have work authorization, so it doesn't prove citizenship. We'll give you a social security number, provided that the system automatically checks the immigration status of the parents, which there are robust databases for, and then it appears no different to the vast majority of birthing parents.
Thank you.
Thank you, counsel.
So she had another one too, where she was talking. She was just awful all the way around. All the questions that she asked were just absolutely just awful. It's kind of crazy that people like that are where they are. You wonder how they got there, but you kind of know it's all corruption. And she was hired for all the wrong reasons. But I digress. That's all I got for you guys this week. Thank you so much for joining me this Saturday on the Drew Grimaldi podcast. God bless, keep the faith, and get out there and talk shit to a liberal today. Thanks so much for watching. I appreciate it.